we have some dramatic new audio of President Donald Trump admitting that he knew about the dangers of coronavirus all the way back in February. So that's important because, as you're going to see, he took the opportunity not to try to do something about the virus, but actually has taken the opportunity to play it down. So now this is audio from a series of interviews with Bob Woodward. So now it found that all the way back in February, as I said, before the United States had its first COVID death, Donald Trump knew about how deadly the virus was. Here is some of that conversation.
And so what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape. But it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed,
it goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know. It's
pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per. This is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
This is deadly stuff. He knew. Well, of course he knew, right? Of course he knew. I mean, he's president of the United States. Yeah, that's his job to know these things. And it's also his job to do something about it, which he didn't. Had he actually paid attention to the briefings and actually paid attention to, or actually cared about solving the issue to trying to protect the most American citizens, that would have made a big difference, but it didn't. And he didn't actually have a plan despite knowing the danger. And I think that's the most infuriating part of this revelation, that he had known all the way back then. If Donald Trump had acted decisively in early February, when this conversation was had, with a strict shutdown and a consistent message of wear your mask, do your social distancing, wash your hands, all that stuff, experts say that he could have saved thousands of lives. If you had a loved one that died from COVID-19, know that Donald Trump knew and he chose to do absolutely nothing. He knew. In fact, look, it's not fair to say that he did absolutely nothing. Here's what he did do. He decided he was going to play it down. Take a look.
Now it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older.
Yeah, exactly.
Young people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
All right, so I downplayed the virus on purpose. Now, he says, I didn't want to create a panic. Now, does that make a little bit of sense? Yeah, in a way. Panic doesn't really help anybody. But there is a difference between saying, don't panic, we've got this covered, we have a plan, we have a pandemic response team, which he got rid of. But, we can do something about it. Here are ways that you can protect yourself. Social distancing, wearing masks, and possibly, if this starts to get here in America, we have contingency plans to enact a lockdown, and we could do this fast, and we have income supports to be able to take care of people if we have to go in that direction, which of course we had to. There's a difference between saying that and saying what he later said is, it'll just disappear, it'll work out fine, don't worry about it, it'll just magically go away by the spring. Once it gets warm, it'll go away. Well, it didn't. And it's not fine. It's still here. It's still here. It's September. And it's actually supposed to get worse. Summer was kind of our reprieve, right? Because it doesn't spread as much because we're all outdoors. There's not a lot of people, inside. School's not, going on. Now school started. And every time, people go back to school, we have a mass increase in cases. And then, kids having to quarantine and all that, and school having to go back to doing online only. And so that's the problem. Okay. And look, the second call happened a month after the first call. So he knew for a long time, did nothing. In fact, he knew since January when he was actually given a briefing about this. And you had, of course, officials giving him information and saying, hey, Donald Trump, take this seriously. Take this seriously. But as you're going to see, or I should say hear in this next call, he was warned about it, but apparently he forgot. He forgot.
So now I understand,
because it was too early.
Your new national security advisor, O'Brien, said to you on January 28th, Mr. President, this virus is going to be the biggest national security threat to your presidency. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. I'm sure he said it. I'm sure he said it. Nice guy.
I'm sure he said it. Nice guy. I'm sure he said it. Maybe you remember if you'd actually care about this. I mean, if you actually gave a shit about the American people, which you apparently don't. And look, I got to go back to also where Donald Trump has no attention span. He gets bored. He can't pay attention. They had to put his name in the briefings so that he would not get bored in case he'd forget. Well, I said that that's not the way to conduct the White House, right? Where, you have to have a president that A, pays attention, and B, actually gives a shit about the country, right? And I said that if we don't have that, we're going to have a disaster. What would happen if we have a natural disaster or something like that? Well, guess what? We have a disaster. It's here. And Trump forgot, though. He forgot. So now, during that briefing, by the way, O'Brien's deputy, Matt Pottinger, told Trump that this could be as bad as the influenza pandemic of 1918 that killed an estimated 50 million people worldwide, including nearly 700,000 Americans. We're nearly at 200,000 Americans dead from this pandemic. And yet, for some reason, instead of, continuing to lock down and support the American people and, really talk about doing like national mask mandates and things like that, we're reopening the country. We're sending the kids back to school. There's no $600 benefit because Congress wants to take breaks. They just got back from a break this week, another vacation. And they're nowhere near, at the point of being able to compromise on an issue on how to help the American people financially. We have levels of financial distress that rival the Great Depression. Okay. And so things are going very, very badly. But nonetheless, no, we're just going to, we're going to continue on as if this virus doesn't exist because we're tired of it. It's boring. Let's get back to doing what we're doing. Also, of course, so Donald Trump and the Republicans can win re-election. And that's disgusting, right? So now 3 days after that meeting, Donald Trump did announce restrictions on travel from China. That was a move that was actually suggested by his national security team. So he lied about that because he said, I came up with the idea myself. No, you didn't. That was a suggestion. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But it's one of those things like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Turns out that's my idea now. And I came up with it. Yeah, of course. But look, other than that, though, he did rallies for months as the virus continued to spread. He downplayed the danger, as you saw, got his followers to believe it and to downplay it. And now over 6 million people in America are infected, 190,000 plus dead, no end in sight. And finally, if that wasn't enough, at an April 3rd coronavirus task force briefing, Trump still downplaying the virus, as he continues to do, and saying it's going to go away. It's going to go away. I said it was going to go away, and now it's going to go away. But yet 2 days later, on April 5th, Trump again told Woodward, quote, "It's a horrible thing. It's unbelievable." And on April 13th, he said, "It's so easily transmissible, you wouldn't even believe it." He knew. He knew. You want to talk about a public face versus a private face? Well, here you go. There's a great example. Donald Trump's public face, downplay, lie. His private face, oh my God, this is a problem. He lied to the American people. I know you're not shocked, right? Nobody is really shocked at the fact that Donald Trump actually lied to the American people. It's not the first, nor will it ever be the last lie. But right now, it is the most significant lie. But it goes along, of course, what he's always said about this. And in this, he was being very honest. He said, "I take no responsibility." Well, that's Donald Trump in a nutshell. Even though he knows what's going on and he's aware and he could do something about it, he still takes no responsibility.